Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have a liftoff.
All right, what is up, everybody? It is Scagz here, and you are listening to the Two Doomed Men podcast. No captain tonight. I am joined instead by my brother from another mother, the king of the trash realm, KRYZ. How you doing, brother?
What's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm good,
Let's go.
man. I'm good, man. So this one's going to be a little bit closer to the heart, a little bit closer to home, I think. We will talk some politics a little bit later, just to give everybody some context. And actually, first of all, man, like, I just wanted to offer my condolences for the passing of your father, and to any of your family who might, perhaps be listening to this right now or at some point later. My condolences to the whole fam.
Thank you.
So just to give everybody a little bit of context, while I was trying to figure out what I was going to be doing tonight and recording, because Captain's busy, he can't make it. I had texted Jamie here and asked him if it'd be all right if I kind of brought up the situation that him and his family are going through right now, just kind of in our ballpark, in our wheelhouse, hits close to home. So Jamie had actually decided to come on himself and kind of tell the story himself instead of me just going on to it. So I'll just kind of wind you up, bro, and let you go. The floor is yours.
Yeah. I'll try to be quick with it, because it is a lot of information.
Mm-hmm.
But it was funny because when you sent the text today about basically saying, hey, can we speak on this or whatever, I was actually going to come out with a public video, acknowledging everyone who helped out. Also to thank you to you, to Cap. I mean, by you and all the guys too, by you guys doing that, I mean, the reach that we gotten to with the amount of people who got involved with it, with the issue, to this day, I just keep thinking about it. And I'm like, wow, I'm just lucky enough to have friends like you guys and family members that really just, it was just a simple request. So I'll just get into it, make it quick so that we can, kind of figure out like what is like the state we're in. So my father unexpectedly passed away last week on Sunday. Happened fairly significantly quick, really, really fast. And we weren't prepared. I mean, he was very healthy, but life just finds a way sometimes. And there was nothing prepared. We didn't have any, thing to base our decisions off of, but now we're going to get into a little bit of family trauma here, so just bear with me. So my father and my mom, a couple of years, got divorced. They separated. As you know, my mom passed away exactly a year and a couple months before my father did. So she was buried in a separate cemetery. And since they were divorced, my father, we're not going to put, our parents together because they're divorced. But my father had an older brother, and his older brother is my Uncle Jamie. And for those of you who know me personally or don't know me, my full name is Jamie Anthony Ortiz. My uncle's name is Jamie Ortiz Rodriguez. My Uncle Jamie was drafted in Vietnam War. He went to serve his country. He was actually killed in combat in Vietnam at 19 years old. And when he was killed, the family had him buried in a national cemetery in Long Island. They buried him, and when they buried him, he had an extra plot available to him. Before he went off to war, he was married to a woman. I don't want to get too public with her, but I mean, she has since passed as well. So she left the country. She went to Puerto Rico. And then moved back to the States, but passed away around, I think, 1990, I was told. And then they flew her down to Puerto Rico where she was buried. So she was not buried in the States. She's buried in Puerto Rico. And they didn't have any kids she didn't have any kids. She actually got remarried later on. So with that said, there is an available plot with my uncle in Long Island. Now, my sister and I, and a lot of my family members, and as you know, and other people do know, I come from a long line of service members, a very long line that goes all the way back to the Spanish American War. And we take pride in that, right? Our family is very prideful people in that sense, that we're very patriotic. And for those of you who know me, I love this country. Just because of that simple fact, my family uh, made the biggest sacrifice when we lost our uncle, who I have never met, but through my father, absolutely adored my uncle. That was his older brother. And it was a very traumatic experience for my family members, especially my aunts who are still alive. They still recount the day, when Uncle Jamie came back home and they got the news that he was killed in Vietnam. Um, and with that said, my father, as I think any family member would, when you're the younger brother and your older brother was killed in combat or in any scenario, you want vengeance. Um, and we've had many deep conversations about that scenario where he would just get really emotional. But he signed up and enlisted into the Marine Corps um, to avenge his brother's death. Um, he enlisted at 17 into the United States Marine Corps. And he did regular boot camp. Then he became a reservist in the Bronx. And then he got discharged at the rank of sergeant. And he was always proud of reaching that rank because he was 19 years old when he became a sergeant. And he always boasted about that. So when he passed, when my father passed, my sister and I, thought that, Uncle Jamie still has one available plot. Um, and I think it would be a great American story for our family to reunite both brothers. Sorry.
It really is, all these years later to, brothers in arms, put them together there. I agree with you 100%.
No, yeah. We, like I said, we come from a very long list of service members that are proud of the service that they did. But now we have run into a scenario where, there are some guidelines for you to be buried in a national cemetery, which, I think, is, important. Obviously, you have to make sure that there is a veteran because people do take advantage of the system, obviously, in any realm of that is true. However, I think that this is a very wholesome moment and a wholesome thing that, for the family and also too is just, patriotic citizens trying to do what's right. What I'm trying to do what's right for my father because I know he was very proud being in the military and also, our uncle meant a lot to everybody in the family, especially to us that we've never met. He's basically my hero. I'm named after him, essentially I go to the Vietnam Wall, his name is there. So it's just like, he took a lot of pride in his brother. There is some guidelines that you have to be 24 months active service to be eligible to be buried in a national cemetery. However, I think my father only had about 6 months from his DD 214, which is his discharge papers from the military. Now, I don't think he has. I mean, we're talking about service from 1970, no, 1981. I think he finished and he was honorably discharged from the military. So, you're trying to ask people for forms from way back then. I don't think it was his actual final form. So we probably have like a small little portion of it, which we submitted. We opened a case with the VA the very next day on Monday, so that we could see if he could be eligible, or if not, have some hopes that maybe people could do the right thing. So that Wednesday, I know I texted everybody and I was like, hey, listen, I'm making this post. I don't know what else to do. I don't know who to talk to. We're calling the VA every single day just to see his eligibility status. And every day it's pending. working their hardest. They have to go to the archives. Nothing's digitized and supposed, and also too, I mean, you're trying to find paperwork from back in the 70s and the 80s, and that could be a little bit tricky trying to find that information. So, I was very patient about it, and to the point where it's just like, at the end of the day, it's like my father's still, at our funeral home. We just want to lay him to rest.
Yeah.
So we gave it a week. So we were trying, our plans was to try to do a wake on Sunday and then a burial on Monday. But that Wednesday, it wasn't looking too good. And we were just like, all right, let's, I'm gonna make a post and see who we can get in contact with. Who can we talk to and which direction they'll point us towards. So when I hit you guys up and you guys were awesome and you guys shared it and you actually, was like sending it to individuals that had contacts information of other, congressmen, elected officials, representatives, whoever. We were reached out to a lot of people. And then someone made a phone call from Massachusetts. I forgot who the individual's name is. And they got in contact with AOC's direct office. It's a local congresswoman, and it is her jurisdiction where we're at. Called that caseworker actually called us in person. Now they called us in person on Friday and said we will definitely take a look. I'm going to need this information and anything that could kind of back up your father's case that he served in the military, and we'll contact the VA. So she contacted the VA. Obviously weekend, everybody's off, and then so basically we're in limbo, right? We were in limbo since Friday. Actually, we've been in limbo since Monday. We didn't get any information. The status is still pending. On Monday, she emailed my sister and was just like, hey, I'm gonna contact this so and so, and then we'll see if we get an answer. But let me get my train of thought here because it's just so much. So also with the eligibility status, since he does have an available plot, they have to make sure that his wife or ex-wife has a death certificate that can be like, that plot is not for anybody, but it's basically off limits, right? So we had to get her death certificate. We had to hunt down in Puerto Rico, like the cemetery, and get in touch with family relatives. I mean, the investigative work that went behind getting all the information was absolutely insane. And also too, they didn't have any kids. So they had to make sure that, on the legality aspect, that nobody else is going to come back in the future and be like, well, there's a plot by my father. They never had kids and she's passed away since, and she's in Puerto Rico. And back to us talking to the caseworker. It's unfortunate. I mean, and this is as of today. This is the last email we received. We have followed up with the National Archives and the VA regularly since Friday, but unfortunately, due to the age of the records, there are most likely physical files that the assigned investigator is manually searching through, which is significantly delaying the process. Both agencies have confirmed that they're prioritizing and handling this case as expeditiously as possible. Please see below. Please see below to the response we received to your question. The VA National Cemetery informed us today. Reservists are only eligible for burial in a national cemetery if they were called up to go overseas to support an operation, or if they were called up to serve through an executive order. If the reservist was only ever called up for training, they will not qualify. The National Cemetery is awaiting the records from NARA to determine whether there is another record of discharge showing my father served overseas or was called up through executive order. There is no record of my father receiving a military pension or having a service-connected disability, as this would also qualify someone for burial in a national cemetery. Our office inquired as to whether there is any discretion in this process and if a congressional letter requesting all due consideration of circumstances would be helpful. Unfortunately, the National Cemetery's decision will be solely based on whether or not there is proof that my dad ever served overseas or through an executive order for any length of time. We regret that this process is taking so long. We will monitor for updates through the holiday and we'll let you know as soon as there is more news. So, with that said, my sister and I have made the decision to go ahead with our contingency plan of burying him in a different cemetery at the time because time is not on our hands. Um, we just want to lay him to rest. Um, so and it's you know, like I said, I appreciate everybody who reached out and you know, you guys, family members, strangers, literally doing what they can to make it possible. But it, it's just, I know it's a simple request, but then it's not. You know, I'm not gonna sit here and be like, I'm asking for too much. I'm not. I'm not.
No, you're
I'm
not.
not.
You know?
I refuse to take a no. I still refuse to take a no as an answer. You know, one individual lost his life on the sacrifice of his fucking country, and my father went in to serve, to do the right thing, and this is how he's treated. So now we cannot be able to bury them and to alongside each other for the rest of eternity, and that kind of pisses me off because who do we talk to?
Mhm.
Who do we talk to? I mean, yeah, there are guidelines and there's things, but this is a principle matter. Do the right fucking thing. Do the right thing. And I mean, is this how we treat people? Is this how matters are handled? I can understand the legality and people take advantage of the system, but it's a simple story, right? It's a simple story, and I think that they rightfully earned he earns that. He earns that. He earns to be alongside his brother, and I think that was what what he would have wanted. And I'm not gonna give up. You know, I'm gonna wait until the fucking listen. If we have to find any measures to relocate him, then I'll do that shit, man. You know that he deserves it. He deserves it, and you know I won't accept a no, and I'm still not gonna accept a no. So I'm gonna have to figure my shit out and figure out if there's another way. But I'll make this shit fucking possible for my father. You
Well, I
know.
hope us doing this, perhaps somebody through the grapevine hears of it and is able to kind of intervene. You know, maybe in the next couple days or so here before before you guys bury him in the next cemetery. I mean, man, what can I really say? Like, you guys, I sympathize so much with what you're going through. Everybody who listens to this show, they know me. Like, I don't need more reasons to hate the government, right? But this one really like burns my ass, and this one hits close to home, because this isn't anything personal, right? Towards you guys, like from the government. This is like the nature of the beast. This is the nature of the impersonality of like the administrative state. Like like you said, man, it's a simple request for someone who served their country and just wants to, like you just want to lay him down there, to rest with his brother. Your family has proudly served this country going back. Like, it's a historic commitment your family has made to the country. And there's like a faceless no one there to help you in this regard. In this simple request. And again, it's not personal. It's not.
And that's the tone. That's the tone we received even on Wednesday and Thursday. It was just like, it's up to the VA. What am I going to do with this? What am I going to do with this?
Like the DMV, like to an extent for this scenario. And look, man, I mean, in a little bit here, maybe we'll talk about some actual politics and stuff, but like there's a reason why I'm an anarchist, right? And like it's shit like this, even when it's something simple, like we're not talking about foreign policy or the economy or anything like that. We're talking about simple shit. Veterans being processed and laid to rest in a cemetery with their family members. It's not fucking rocket science, And unfortunately, now we have, the holiday. I'm sure that's going to throw a wrench in this whole process as well, because it's an office and offices are going to be closed and things like that. It's really a shame, man. I mean, I could go off here and, get real vulgar with it. That's what I feel inside. Like, the pit burning in my stomach about this, but it really is the nature of the beast. I hope people see that. Like, I'll make my quick libertarian point, as I always will. If any services like these were privatized, there'd be much more accountability. You seem stuck in a period of there's no accountability here, right? Like, if this was contracted out to a private company to kind of facilitate these things, you know, like, and they don't do their job correctly, someone's losing their fucking job, or the company's going to lose the contract, or whatever it might be. I hate to even like make these sort of points right now on this thing, but there's a lesson in everything, man, and it really is upsetting to me. And I really wish you and the family like all the best and all my condolences, and I hope this somehow works out for you, because it is what he deserves, you know.
100%.
And it's part of when you lose someone, it's part of the closure process, you know. Like, and I understand exactly where you guys are coming from. This is closure, you know, to the loss that you guys are feeling, and it never gets easier, man. Like when you lose somebody, I remember when my grandma passed away, the priest, you know, he told my aunt, who was really upset at the time, obviously, and he told her, like, you know, it's it never gets easier. You just learn how to live with it. That, like, those words like really stuck out to me, you know. And but part of that is the closure you get from, you know, the funeral process and all these things. So it really is. It really pisses me off, dude.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate, you know, with the line of history of my family, and you know, being patriotic about this country. And I mean, you could even break it down into like how veterans get treated when they come back, and that state. And there's enough, you know, on the agenda for everyone else except the people at home, and the people who make the ultimate sacrifice, and the people who, you know, the country relied on to get the job done. And it's unfortunate, it really is. And I'm not saying that my father was not he wasn't deployed in any conflict, but at the end of the day, I mean, he's only served because of his brother. So it's kind of, you know, and I think we had this conversation on one of your episodes the last time I was on. Or I think it was with I think Vinny was on, or whatever. It's like, you know, not for nothing. You know, my uncle Pat, he died in Vietnam in 1969 at 19 years old. Do you not think that rips a hole in every family member's heart? You know, like that goes down. That, like, that's a traumatic experience for them, and it's also a traumatic experience for us, right? Because I never had an uncle. I never got to meet him. That was my father's superhero, taken from him at such a young age, because my father was only 10 years old when it happened. So that also, you know, goes down the line. You know, I got to see the pain that he had, you know, sitting here crying because he misses his brother. So, and that's on his end. But, you know, I've had a big family with aunts, and it was, you know, they try not to speak of it often because it hurt them that much. So it does go through. It's like it does go through generations of, you know, of a traumatic experience, even though I didn't deal with it firsthand, but I dealt with it through the emotions that I've seen through with other family members. And yeah, I mean, you know, it's just unfortunate that it's gotten to this point where it's just an office decision.
Right.
It's an office decision. It's just like, you know, who's going to make the decision though? The investigator, like who do we talk to? Who can we, you know, and my sister and I were saying, we'll try to get as much petitions as possible. Like we'll get, who do you need to talk to? Like, you know, who do you want the petitions from? Like, this is like, we'll state our case. We'll state
AOC,
a reason.
AOC, if you intervene here and you help out somehow, I will never criticize you again on this show. I'm always busting AOC's chops on this show. I will never criticize you again. Like, so, you know.
And to be fair, her office has been very helpful.
Okay.
Her office has been like, you know, personally calling, emailing, you know, trying to find answers and try to find, you know, how they can speed up the process. And just everyone else too. I mean, it's just incredible. You know, I've had people write letters to the VA personally. But where's the decision? Where's the decision? Why can't they just sit down and be like, listen, It's an available plot. We're not asking them
Right.
for space because that cemetery is fully occupied. I'm assuming after Vietnam and other conflicts, it's completely full. There is no more spot, but there's one available plot that's still left. It's never going to be taken. It's going to be there, through the end of time. Why is it so hard for
Right.
that to be possible? And why can't there be a decision like, you know what? This is taking way too long. Let's give them some closure. Let's give them something that they you know, someone, sacrifice their life for this country. I mean, at least they can do is be like, let's just do this for them.
Yeah, you would think
Let's just have this happen.
they'd have they'd have the ability to make that decision. But again, man, like I said, it's not personal. This is the nature of the beast. Like they're tied up in the bureaucracy of the system. That's from what you've explained here to me, and that's
I talked to
the way it goes, man.
a lieutenant colonel, retired, 23 years, in the Marine Corps, and we talked, and we had a conversation, and he took time out of his day. This is towards leading up to Veterans Day. I'm sorry. He was in a veterans committee doing a board session, and he took his time, researched like, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that, and it was like we did everything that was requested. We already know the guidelines, but we are just waiting for. And he goes, this is the government. This is what you have to deal with, and I'm sorry that you have to deal with it, but you're a great American. And I don't think that's enough, man. I don't think that's enough. I don't think that's enough. I'm sorry. I think that especially veterans, active reservists, it doesn't matter. I mean, I always thought that when you take that oath and you make that decision, you're making a decision to support and defend the Constitution of the United States is a big thing. Words is a big thing for me, especially, me with history, American Revolution. I believe in those things, right? I think a lot of Americans believe in those documents. So, and I just think it's an honorable thing,
It is. It's in my opinion, it's probably the most honorable thing any man, woman can do. To put yourself into the service. Like you are literally putting your life on the line voluntarily. Vietnam's a little bit different. There was a draft. I've been critical of the concept of the draft on this show before, but you are literally making the ultimate sacrifice, the ultimate volunteer thing any person can do, and just to see. This is way before our time, but I know how the Vietnam vets were treated, when they returned from the war, and just goddamn it, this bureaucracy with the Department of Veterans Affairs. It's thinking back to what you're saying before. This is one of the reasons why, man, I am so anti-war. It's not because it's an edgy thing to do, and because I hate the state or something like that. It's because there's a human cost to war. And people who are making that decision to, volunteer and sacrificing themselves. I'm not in the military. I never served. I never claimed to talk about anything that I don't know about, right? But I respect more than anything people who make that decision to serve. And we should never, ever treat that lightly or put them in harm's way for some meaningless, abstract thing that profits some, well-connected elites. I mean, look, man, this is a political show. There's people running for president right now. Nikki Haley comes to mind. I have no respect for someone like that just because of the way she talks, or like a Lindsey Graham. These are people who would piss on the ultimate sacrifice these people make to make a dime. They have no regards whatsoever for the lives of service members. They never saw, as Scott Horton would say, never saw a war they didn't like, right? They like every war. They'd send us to every war. They take every action that could possibly exist. They don't care. And I don't even know, man. Like, it's indicative of like where we're at right now. It's like such a moral rot that exists within the system. And I know I said it's not personal before, but man, like you could see it shine through. You know, from the Lindsey Grahams and the Nikki Haley shine through just the bureaucracy of the system there. Like they will send your family to die and leave a hole. You know, that will ripple.
And Vietnam was different too.
Yeah, it was.
Vietnam
right.
was different. If you went to college, you had a chance to not be drafted into the military. So a lot of older gentlemen right now who are in powerful positions. You know, I'm not saying majority. I'm saying a good chunk of them were able to dodge the draft. And that was one thing my father would say too. It's like, you know, it was kind of targeted for lower income, poverty, you know, Americans. No color either. You could be, you know, in Arkansas somewhere and be poor and you were drafted. You could be in Spanish Harlem, poor, drafted. Because some of these individuals didn't have the chance to go to college,
right,
or the means to go to college, right? So it's just crazy how all this, you know, it sucks because I do love this country, man. And when you see what's been, you know, happening lately and how the American citizens been getting treated, and I'm not just speaking on behalf of like, you know, what's going on with my situation with my family. I'm just saying in whole, it's just like, fuck, man, holy shit, this is crazy. This is so unfortunate, man, and it's definitely disappointing. I'm more disappointed than anything else, you know.
Yeah.
I believed in this country, bro. I believed in this country, and I was hoping they would do the right thing, and you know, it is what it is at this point. See what happens.
I feel you, man.
But
I mean, I love this country.
I'm very
too.
disappointed.
Just hate the people in charge and hate the system. You know, and that's what you're dealing with here, brother. It's the system, you know, and you know, like these people in it who have, you know, perpetrated. Like that was a good point you made before. You know, like a lot of these people in charge, like they're from that generation. They probably, you know, skirted serving, you know, because they were like, you know, the well-connected elite that went to college and whatnot. So, you know, it's just in retrospect, thinking back on this whole thing, like, God damn it, the least they could do is just quickly, you know, make, you know, concessions for service members, right? Like, look, you know, have your empire, have your wars. Could you at least help people out on the back end, or you're sending in there marching to death all the time that make the ultimate sacrifice? Like, my God, you can't even do that right. You know, like you'd think if there's one thing they prioritize in doing right, like, if, you know, well, if we're going to keep the morale up in the empire, you know, like the stormtroopers have to have a really good burial fund and efficient way, because if they don't, then we're going to lose all the morale. But they know they can't even do that right, man. It really is just, it's despicable. It's disgusting. It really is.
Yeah. See what happens, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to transition after that. It's really heavy. But if you want to talk a little bit, perhaps of a white pill here, or a hopeful thing in the future, you know,
saving grace.
Yeah, you know,
I mean, saving grace.
Unfortunately, it's not in America, but it's something. You know, I sent this to you earlier today. I kind of want to talk a little bit about Argentina and Javier Milei. You know, being elected down there as the first libertarian president in history, and I do think this kind of ties in loosely somehow, just because of who Javier Milei is, what libertarianism is, and you know, we're talking about the nature of the beast before, and how this is what these, you know, government programs do. They're not efficient, you know, and there's a reason why I don't like them and think they need to be shrunk. And I'm constantly on this podcast advocating for people that are looking to do shit like that, because they just don't work and they hurt people, right? Like they're hurting your family now. So if you are not aware and you are listening, Javier Milei is the first libertarian. He's now president-elect in Argentina, and he's going to be the first libertarian president in world history. I will kind of set the stage here real quick with an article, and then we can kind of comment on it, and I'll show some videos, kind of talk about the reaction. I always tell Captain, like, the reaction to something is always sometimes more interesting than the thing itself, although the thing itself here is very interesting because it's the first time. So I got this from Forbes, Javier Milei, the new libertarian revolution in Argentina. Argentina, on November 19th, Argentina faced one of the most important elections since the return of democracy in 1983, exactly 40 years ago. The pro-life libertarian underdog candidate Javier Milei and his party La Libertad Avanza won the presidential runoff with a landslide victory, a 12% margin over the leftist Peronist former Minister of Economy Sergio Massa, 56 versus 44. The two candidates campaigned for each vote in one of the most polarized and ideological campaigns ever. During the first electoral round held on October 22nd, the ruling party candidate Massa unexpectedly reached 36.7%, while Milei received just 30%. This was an election between freedom against the Hobbes-Leviathan idea embraced by Peronism, as well as a majority of leftist governments in Ibero-America, so South America. Milei's victory represented a historical change for a country run by Peronists for more than 45 years. I will just make a quick libertarian autistic point here that, like, since democracy came to Argentina, it got worse there, right? Like 45 years of democracy and socialist rule has destroyed the place now.
Yeah.
So, like, I made this point to you in the past, dude, on many episodes. Like, democracy is the god that failed. It's not all it's always cracked up to be. Like, you know, so I think that's like a little kind of like a hidden story here to keep in mind.
Yeah.
In his first public and inclusive statement, the new president-elect Milei said, "Today begins the reconstruction of Argentina. Today begins the end of Argentina's decline. The model of decadence has come to an end. Argentina will return to its place in the world that it should never have lost. We are going to work shoulder to shoulder with all the nations of the free world to help build a better world. Our key words are limited government, respect of private property rights, and free trade. In fact, this is a victory of the majority of Argentinians, tired of the permanent economic stagnation and fed up with the bureaucratic leftist welfarism that dragged the 40% of Argentinians under the poverty line, including 56% of children. Javier Milei has shaken the Argentinian politics since he announced to run for president in 2020. Milei, an entrepreneur, former TV pundit, an academic economist, and self-proclaimed anarcho-libertarian, was able to brand himself as the last hope against the corrupt Kirchnerism establishment elite that have run the country for the last 20 years. Now, like, I'm not any expert in Argentinian politics or anything like that, but I'm a libertarian and I'm part of the Libertarian Party here, and you know, I've kind of had to come to Jesus the last couple of years in regards to libertarian. I've read the literature, and Javier Milei, he won this election by running as a libertarian. And the article referenced it there. Like, he boldly ran on a libertarian message of individual liberty, property rights, Austrian economics, or like free market, you know, trade, free market economics. He was also charismatic. I don't know if you've seen the videos of him.
Oh yeah.
With the chainsaw, like he's going to take a chainsaw to the state. There's one of him hitting a piñata, and the piñata is their Federal Reserve. I'll play a video here in a little bit of him talking about leftists. He is a white pill that it can be done, right? It can be done. He could be kind of a roadmap to how a libertarian president who runs on principles can actually win the office. Now, Argentina had 45 years plus of awful destitution, right? Of poverty, of socialism. So America's not in that boat just this moment where, you know, the people there must have definitely been hungry for a different message. But let's hope that we don't have to get to that point, right? Let's put principled people in charge, right? There's a reason why, you know, and I know you've been helping me here a little bit as we're getting up to the Libertarian Party convention. Like, there's a reason why I'm participating in this shit. Because I believe it is the correct answer to bring prosperity and freedom and property rights and to fix problems like the one that you are facing. There's no fucking reason why you should even have that problem, bro. A private, you know, company administering the whole thing would, like I said before, would definitely do a better job than this fucking government bureaucracy that you're tied up in. What do you think, man? Would you have any thoughts on this.
Well, I think it's the I know I saw a video of him at a whiteboard with all the departments, and he just started taking each one of them and just tossing them,
Afuera!
saying like afuera, like he's throwing them out, gone, gone, gone. Um, but I understand why, right? I mean, I understand why. Do you have that?
No, but I
Oh,
have here.
okay.
Javier Milei just announced that the Argentinian Ministry of Women, Gender, and Equality will close in 21 days. Promises made, promises kept.
Oh, he's
So,
already working.
yeah. So one of the
He's already working on it.
one of the first, I mean, yeah. So I mean, think about that, folks. Argentina has a Ministry of Women, Gender, and Equality. Like, what will you even do there?
Well, this goes to let's if you want to talk about politics, and I love this. I love this. So, I've been on some downtime. Trying to I was spending time with family members. That's why I said I was like, this is perfect timing because I'm only down here at the house for a day, and then I'm going back up to some family members just to spend some time with them and hang out and just decompress.
Yeah.
And just basically like a retreat, like a mental retreat. But even though I'm doing that, I'm also on my laptop. I'm like watching things, and the best one yet that I've watched that I've been like really like scratching my head on was when Xi Jinping came to San Francisco. There's no more homelessness problems.
Yeah.
There's nothing. There's no illegal activity happening. There's nothing. There was nothing. And it's just so funny because today I actually watched All Gas No Brakes. You ever watch that?
Sounds familiar.
That Andrew Cunningham. It's like a satirical channel news program as an anchor, and he just shows like basically crazy opposite spectrums of like extreme people. So he went to San Francisco and he was like, just for the first 90 minutes of being in San Francisco, I watched someone inject themselves with opioids, and then I saw someone get their car stolen in broad daylight and the car was reversed. And he was like, I actually happened to be filmed running with a guy whose car was being stolen. He was interviewing him as the guy's car was getting stolen down the street. Some guy filmed it, and then it went viral and went into their news, I guess, like their Channel 5 over there. And while he was trying to interview him while his car's getting stolen. But what's funny is like that happened in San Francisco. And sure enough, when Xi Jinping came, all those issues
Gone. Yeah.
just like that. So what happens now? And they built gates and stuff and fences around a perimeter, and they were able to do it for when the president of China, whatever he is, the Xi Jinping. But what happens now? Like, you don't help. Where'd you put those people? How'd you get it done so well? Because we always heard of that there are people who are making six figures trying to eradicate the homeless issue, but it never gets eradicated because that is a salary that they need.
It becomes a bureaucracy.
So it's just
it becomes another, department of the government with justifications and jobs and all these things. Isn't it funny, right? How and ironic how, like, you're saying, like, Xi Jinping, he comes to California, who has, to San Francisco, is having this tremendous homeless problem that they can't solve. And they solved it overnight by snapping their fingers. And I don't know, like, if they threw the fucking homeless people in a meat grinder or whatever they did there, but they could do that. And, like, that's not something easy to do, to just kind of move a whole bunch of people and, like, that are, definitely have mental illness and are living out on the streets. But you, who want a simple request to bury your father with his brother, it seems like we have to move mountains in order to get that done, right? So, like, do you see here, like, the nature of government, the nature of the beast? For another elite politician, they will literally fucking move mountains with the snap of a finger. But a normal person who needs a very simple courtesy can't even get that. It's tied up in endless bureaucracy. That's why the beast has to be tamed. It has to be shrunk, man. That's why I love Javier Milei. Like, I'm going to be skeptical of him as well. I always say, like, always be skeptical of people, right? Like, he's still a politician at the end of the day. I've heard him talk. I recommend everybody listen to, I think you listen to this too, Jamie.
Yeah.
His interview with Tucker Carlson, just because it's
Yes.
coming from the American point of view of Tucker towards him. I recommend everybody listen to that. I've listened to Javier talk. Like, he sounds like a libertarian. He's read Murray Rothbard and all the other great libertarian scholars. He knows his economics. He says he's an anarcho-capitalist. Forget about even being a libertarian. He's a step beyond. Going so this is the gripe some people will have, and this is the gripe I'm gonna have with people. When he won, man, I go on Twitter and I guess this should be expected now of libertarians. They're so goddamn negative. They can't even just spend the one day where you get the first libertarian president in the history of the fucking world and just crack open a beer and celebrate on at least day one. They're all being negative and nitpicking, and the autism of like trying to find what is he bad on, right? Or how he's not a true libertarian or whatever it is. Like, we had on fucking, Dr. Michael Rechtenwald, and he made a great point. He's like, well, libertarianism isn't a cult. Right, so for everybody who's constantly like, well, you're not a real libertarian, you're not a real terrorist. It's a political philosophy and ideology. And part of the reason why, in my opinion, especially seeing this, where you finally get something you could be hopeful about or optimistic about, part of the reason why libertarianism is having such a hard time gaining a foothold is because of that inherently baked-in fucking nihilism that seems to come with it. Another example of this, I remember they had a Rage Against the War Machine rally in Washington, D.C. a couple months ago. And I remember I was listening to Clint Russell talk about this, and he was like, man, we were there, and like in person, everything was great. Like, we were making friends across the aisle with like leftists and communists and, Libertarian Party put this all together. And we're like, look, we disagree on all the other shit, but one thing we all just agree on is being against war. And he's like, we had this huge thing. Ron Paul gave a speech. Scott Horton gave a speech. It was awesome. And Clint Russell's like, I come back on Twitter, and everyone is nitpicking every little aspect of it and being negative. Like your political movement is not going to get anywhere if that's the way you're going to be. Point blank, right? Like, I'm here. I'm an optimistic person. I know this is called Two Doom Men, but as we said, like, that's because we're the Legion of Doom. Our friend group's the Legion of Doom, not because we're fucking, black-pilled, nihilists. Look, if Javier Milei fucks up, I get it. It's going to look bad for libertarianism, right? And like, I can already foresee the corporate press is going to be like, you see, this is why libertarianism doesn't work or whatever. So like, there is going to be a lot of pressure on them. I think people need to also understand it's not like going to be easy to unwind that monster down there in Argentina. Even if you put
he will experience flack for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
1,000, because these are people's salaries that you're going after now too. Where if you're gonna eradicate these departments, that means their salaries are gonna be, taken away, and their jobs are basically getting taken away. And
their livelihoods.
They're gonna be met. He's gonna be met with a lot of opposition. The
grift is in danger now, right? So yes, look, being Donald Trump, we have our differences, but use him as an example. Was it easy for him to just do whatever he want? No, fucking guy's facing 1,000 phony, lawsuits right now. Javier Milei is going to have a hard time. He's not going to snap his fingers and make it Ancapistan, as some people might think. So I think that needs to be kept in mind. One of the other negatives I've seen libertarians trying to nitpick on him about is they're saying he's a neocon or like he's a warmonger. I guess this is because he was kind of pro-Ukraine, and he was kind of I seen a photo of him waving an Israeli flag recently after the attacks on October 7th. And he's kind of talked about how he is. I think he's Italian, which is interesting. A lot of Italians went down to Argentina in the past, and I think he's an Italian Argentinian, which is interesting. He's one of the paisans down there. But he's talked about, he likes Judaism and he wants to convert maybe in the future. So people are like taking that and using that as a negative on him somehow. Look, the thing is, he's going to be the president of Argentina. He's not going to be the president of the United States. Argentina doesn't have any world empire. They don't have any military force. There's like, even if personally, for some reason, which I still just don't believe at this point because of everything I've heard him say, even if he has some sort of warmongering libertarian anarcho-capitalist or something like that, and he kind of goes back on that principle of what we believe in, it doesn't matter because he can't do anything in that regard. It's pointless. Argentina has no role on the world stage as compared to America has. They literally have no role. his presidency is probably going to be 100% focused on domestic issues because of how fucked they are there. And if he is successful, and we here in America can take that, just like it could be used as a negative, it could also be used as a positive. We can then hold that up as a fucking example to everybody and be like, you see, here's a trial study, a trial case. This shit works. You know, support libertarians in the future. Maybe not. Maybe Republicans need to become more libertarian and try and like stand on libertarian principles. I was trying to make this point to our buddy Alan. You know, he was like, fuck him, who cares? America first. I'm like, yeah, I know. I'm America first, but like that doesn't mean we can't look at other things happening elsewhere in the world and hope to use that as an example. It succeeds to then use it here for, you know, for an America first vision. So,
well, it was the same principle goes to the French Revolution. French Revolution was literally because of the American Revolution. They saw what the Americans were able to do against the British, and they used that as motivation. And they actually would read some of the founding fathers' letters, and you know, like that's how they got that spirit to be like, well, this is all fucked, and we need to figure this shit out now. And they actually used our history to motivate their history, in a sense,
right?
And that's like one of the things that a lot of people are not aware about is that we heavily influenced their democracy.
Yeah. Look, I'm hopeful. I'm white-pilled, right? I think this is a good thing. It really just is annoying how libertarians can't just take a win, like even if it's just a one day. You know, I remember when Governor Cuomo got kicked out of office. You know, Captain and I, we popped a champagne here, and we said it at the time. We're like, things are going to probably get better under Governor Hochul, right? And they haven't. She's probably even fucking worse, right? But I don't know. Spend a day and pop some champagne, light up a joint, have a beer. If you're just a miserable constantly all the time, I don't see how that helps in any regards of anything ever. Like, they want you demoralized. And if you constantly are demoralized and you just feed into that, and even when there is a win, you never celebrate it because, oh, well, you know, it doesn't matter because the next person's going to suck anywhere. Or it's not going to work out. Yeah, well, then it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, you know, and I don't have time for that. I really don't. You know, I have kids, have, you know, friends, family. Like, we value liberty. We want a prosperous world where we could all be free and I got fucking time for nihilism. Shit just grinds my gears, bro. Really does.
Oh, 1000%, especially with the politics mostly. But you know, I told you, I've only been on X or Twitter for like a couple of months, and it's just in every genre, right? Every genre, there's always something that someone will take and then expand it into something that it's not, right?
Yeah.
And they'll just like they'll run with it, and you're just sitting there. You're just like, in my opinion, every time I look, I'm like, is nobody happy on here? Like, there's no, like, you know, it's just like the people who are that sharing good news or being supportive, especially in my industry. In my industry with streaming video games, it's like, you know, you have the people who are, you know, mostly positive, trying to share or be, you know, have some good faith, and then you have the other individuals that are basically hating, or they just don't like you, so they're gonna ruin your whole entire career and make your life difficult while being on Twitter. So it's kind of funny because it's just like you can never win. You can never win. It's just like,
yeah, I think an aspect
you just gotta battle through it.
Yeah, I mean, Twitter is a literal fucking war zone. And the algorithms are favoring negativity because negativity tends to get more human engagement. Like, humans seem to be more hardwired to harp on bad things than they are good things. But that doesn't mean there aren't good things. And, you know, like, to be fair, man, like, our show is mainly negative shit we're talking about, right? Like, we're here complaining every week about whatever's going on in the world. But we do try and have fun as well. And we do, you know, we did our Halloween thing and shit like that.
Yeah.
And one of the positives I've gotten out of doing the podcast, man, is like the fun, the in-person stuff, the relationships we've made with other people, you know, doing a podcast. So, like, while we might complain about shit all the time, it's like, well, we made other friends that we could complain about shit with. And that's pretty fucking cool. So there's a positive aspect to things as well. I think we'll wrap it up here in a minute, dude. I think we should watch a clip of Javier's, which is probably one of the funnier ones. And dude, so you might have seen this one. one of the things about
it's in this one.
Javier, one of the things about Javier that's a little bit different from most libertarians, but maybe not the new, guard of libertarians, but kind of the old guards. Like, they wouldn't participate in any of the culture war stuff that's going on. And, like, I agree, sometimes, like, the culture war shit can be a distraction. But, like, if you don't have a culture, I don't understand what you have, right? Like, libertarianism doesn't really have anything to say on culture. That means that you can have something to say on culture, right? So he, in this video, so this is hysterical. I'm sure a lot of people have seen this. So he doesn't really speak English. So this is has captions, but I found a dubbed version of it, which makes this even more funny because of how it's dubbed over. So this is Javier Milei getting into the cultural realm and complaining about leftists and socialists and things like that. Let's hear what he has to say.
You can't give shit leftards an inch.
Can you define shit leftist?
All collectivists, all kinds of collectivists.
But why do you call them shit?
Because they are shit.
If you think differently from them,
they will kill you. This is the point. You can't give shit leftists an inch. If you give them an inch, they will use it to destroy you. You can't negotiate with leftards. You don't negotiate with trash because they will end you. If they, the left, have a guy that beats his wife off, if it's one of them, he puts on the green scarf, pro-abortion, and yells about neoliberalism all the time, and they hide it. If suddenly there's a journalist that molests another journalist, they hide it. When it's one of them, they hide it. They hide all of those aberrations. Now, if you are on the other side, they will ruin you. They'll kill you, they will throw you everything, they don't care if they ruin your whole life. Why? Only because you don't think like them. And do you know what's the good part in all of this? Because since to err is human, since everyone can be mistaken, they force us to be better, and since we are getting better than them, since we are crushing them in the cultural battle. We're not only superior economically, we are morally superior, we are aesthetically superior, we are better than them at everything, and that triggers them. And since they can't beat us with real arguments, they just use the repressive apparatus of the state, with loads of taxpayer money to destroy us, and yet they're still losing. They had to remove the blacklist. They had to remove the blacklist. You understand? They're losing. Their desperate shit leftists are losing the cultural battle. For the first time ever, they are cornered. Those shit leftards.
now don't tell me that I...
All right, I'll end that there, man. So
Yeah,
this goes back to what I was saying before. Like, like, you have to. I mean, I think Trump was a lesson in this as well. You got to have a sense of humor. You have to be a little bit over the top, especially in the times that we're living in now. If you're just up, and this could be a lesson actually to libertarian candidates. I think I tweeted at Josh Smith. I was like, start cursing more, bro. If you're gonna make any noise, you have to make some noise. I've heard Javier Milei talk about economics, and he's calm and quiet and rational. He knows his fucking shit. But when he's talking about the cultural shit, he is out there,
animated. Yeah, he's very animated. Yeah,
and that moves people.
Oh, 100%. And that goes to show, like, with the recent, what was it, last week or whatnot, or maybe a week and a half ago, with the Republican national debate. That was the first time I've seen something where a candidate turns around and asks a question and holds someone accountable.
Talking about when
took their foot and put their foot under the fire, to put their foot over the fire and go, explain that. This is literally the reason why we are here. This is one of the reasons why people don't trust the government, and that is like what you said. It's you got to fucking stir the pot. You got to do something different. But what's interesting, especially with Javier and what Vivek does, is that I think that they care. They're passionate. It's the same thing with Bernie Sanders. Remember when we went to, you can see the passion that they actually do care, like they do care about the country. And I think, especially with him being animated, you can see he genuinely wants to see the success of his country.
So, yeah, I do think so. I'm not naive enough anymore to think that it can't be an act. You referenced Bernie.
I agree with that.
And, everybody knows, like, I used to be a Bernie bro. You were right there with me. We went to his rally in 2015, St. Mary's Park.
Yeah, 2016.
And, my looking back at Bernie now, it was naivete on my part. Like, yeah, he might be animated and appear to care, but I've come to learn, like, a lot of it is just a grift. It's a carrot at the end of a stick that you'll never catch. And even if you did, the policies actually don't work in principle. I mean, we could go on, endlessly about that. But regardless of that, you still need that aspect if you're going to, motivate people, right? This is something libertarians don't understand. Like, if you're going to affect change, you're going to need a populist uprising. We talked about this when we had Vinny here. You're not going to get a fucking populist uprising if it's boring. It's not possible. It really isn't. Martin Luther King Jr., was he boring? No. He was animated and gave great fucking speeches, and he moved people, right? And that won people to his side, and that's what starts a populist uprising. There's no accident how Javier Milei, I mean, there is something to it that they were so far off that they're desperate to try something different, but they wouldn't know something's different if this guy didn't go up there and fucking scream and shake people and wake them up and be up there with a chainsaw sometimes and be like, we got to take a chainsaw to this thing to fix it. That moved people, that got people out to vote for him. And hopefully now he's able to fucking capitalize on this and plant a flag, of libertarianism somewhere. And then we could point to that as like a good example of why we need to embrace some of these principles. I hope it works out. I really am rooting for him. I'm really hoping that he sticks to the principles and it all works out for Argentina. And I'm a fan of humanity, and I want people elsewhere to do good too. So, like, I'm not just rooting for this because I'm a libertarian and I want, like, my team to win. I actually want the people of Argentina to be better off, and I think they're on the right path. This is just step one in a very difficult transition and long process. Another thing I like about Javier is saying it's going to take like 35 years to fix this fucking mess. It's not lying to you. It's not an easy overnight fix. Let's see. Let's give it a chance, everybody.
Yep.
Any other thoughts you want to add, Jamie, before we wrap it up here?
No, I'm pretty much good. Thank you for having me on and letting me talk about my situation.
Yeah. Look, man, if anyone has a connect, knows, is able to do something, reach out to me, reach out to Jamie. Jamie, why don't you shout out where everybody can find you? I'm on Instagram at KRYZ, KRYZZZ _ 3 Z's, 3 underscores, and I'm at KRYZ Gaming on X. You could definitely contact me there, DM me. But thank you, Cap, all the guys, everybody who's been involved, especially Professor Giordano. Alan, a couple people reached out to, and they really did try to help. I really appreciate you guys as well. Yeah,
thank you guys so much. It really means a lot to me and my family, so thank you guys.
Yeah.
That's where you can reach me at.
All right, man. Well, we're here for you. That's what friends do, brother. So, all right,
Yes, sir.
We'll wrap it up there. Thank you, everyone, for listening.